Hi, I'm Doug Henschen, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, covering data to decisions.
And I'm Dion Hinchcliffe, Vice President and Principal Analyst covering future of work and CIO issues. We're your co-hosts for episode 45 of Constellation Research TV.
And CRTV covers news and trends in enterprise tech. This week, we'll start off with Holger Mueller. He'll share a report from Oracle Cloud World. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to share all the highlights from last week's Constellation Connected Enterprise event. A blast as always. We'll start with a day one recap from Holger Mueller, Liz Miller, and myself that we recorded at Sam's Chowder House in Half Moon Bay. Of course, the first cosmic feast every night, kicking off the event from their great sunset location.
Well, after that, we have our final segment, Doug. Our colleague Hannah Hock and I will share highlights from our 12th annual SuperNova Awards, which we held at a gala dinner at CCE last week in Half Moon Bay. But first, let's get to the news.
Well, our friend Ron Miller at TechCrunch reported last week that cloud infrastructure growth may be finally cooling. Miller cited data from Synergy Research showing that growth among the big three cloud players, AWS, Microsoft, and Google, had declined from their typical 30+% range per quarter down to 24%. So still growing, but not quite as robustly. Synergy cited factors including a strong dollar and a shrinking market in China. Interestingly, Google was the only cloud to gain share, up a point to 11%. Meanwhile, AWS and Microsoft, which hold 34% and 21% of the market respectively, fell short of their analyst projections. AWS cloud growth slowed to 27.5% on the quarter, down from 33% in the prior quarter. Interestingly, the total market now among those three, $57 billion per quarter. So just immense. And I caught some of the chatter at CCE, seeing a bit of alarm about cloud costs. So maybe folks are losing sight of how much they spend on their data centers. Not too sure, but definitely interest, particularly with the talk of inflation and recession, that cloud costs are getting to be a major headache, particularly CFOs looking at that and wondering, do we need to spend this much money?
Doug, it's a topic that comes up all the time in the CIO office these days. We definitely hear that there's lots of concern around cloud costs, licenses not being used for SaaS in particular. Now there's a whole set of product categories around that. So it's going to be something to watch. But I think we are hitting the early maturity for the cloud market. On my end, I've been getting signals regularly from the IT community about the state of agile methods. That's the process approach that the IT community developed to create software faster and lower the very high failure rate that has long been standard in the industry. But there's only one really big enterprise player left for agile methods. The binderware version where you can actually where Agile is actually designed for very large enterprises and all of the different issues they have around, governance, compliance, and other things that weren't part of Agile, but have to be dealt with. And the issue we're hearing is consistently is that the approach makes Agile too complex, too hard to learn, too hard to use. The documentation for scaled Agile, that's the big company that's left standing, and their SAFe methodology has gotten to the point where it looks like the old waterfall methods of old, is the criticism I'm getting. So I challenged Scaled Agile about this, and we had a meeting of the minds right before CCE about what's really going on. And so they made a pretty good case that you need to have all that documentation, but since there was no version of Agile that actually has all these things that big enterprises need, they had to find some way of putting it in there. And they showed me they actually have lightweight versions. There's a settable dial on SAFe. And if you're a really big company with all the concerns, you can turn it all the way to the right. But there's actually a fairly easy way you can turn it back down so you have minimum complexity based on what you're trying to do. I still think they have some work to do. We wanted to educate people about that option. But they are working at I think, doing something notable that few others have ever attempted. And that's one of the reasons for the last organization kind of really standing packaged Agile for the enterprise. So I'll be getting into this more detail, writing it up on a blog post soon so that the IT community can really understand the issues. But it was an interesting conversation. Doug, what do you have next?
Well, speaking of enterprises that want to be more agile, ServiceNow bucked the trends among enterprise software companies last week, reporting another strong quarter and beating analyst expectations. Not many tech companies doing that these days, but they reported a 22% year-over-year revenue growth to 1.7 billion. Quite a large software company now. Aside from being in the hot category of workflow and automation, CEO Bill McDermott reported that the number of companies paying more than 10 million in annual contracts for annual contracts grew 60% year over year. So again, lots of big companies doing more and more automation. And noting the skills shortage in this workflow and automation category, McDermott also announced a Rise Up with ServiceNow, a training program through which they hope to certify 1 million people on their Now platform by 2024. That will certainly help to fuel their own growth. You know, we had the CMO of ServiceNow, Michael Park, at CCE last week. It was great listening to him. He talked all about enterprise acceleration, and he talked about turning physical assets into ones and zeros as an incredible accelerator. So again, it's a hot topic. We always talk about that being one of Holger's, the year of Holger's idea of enterprise acceleration. But that's all the time we have for this week for the news. Stay tuned. Holger's going to give a report from Oracle Cloud World. Then we'll have our day one recap from last week's Constellation Connected Enterprise. And then we'll close with some highlights from this year's SuperNova Awards.
Hello everybody, it's Holger Mueller here to share my key takeaways from Oracle Cloud World 2022. Very good to be back in person after two virtual editions in Las Vegas. All locations are skewed up. Didn't want to say that word. Change of Oracle. The press release say Austin. Open World no longer. Cloud World is not in San Francisco, but in Las Vegas at the Sands Convention Center and the Forum Caesar something. Very confusing what is there and what is at the hotel. Very well attended. I estimate about 20,000 people. Big partner attention. I think there was a lot of partners there in general because the first time they come in person, Oracle's doing a big push to have partners adopt their tech stack. No question about that. What are my 5 key takeaway, right? So it's always good to listen to Larry Ellison's keynote, largest owner, one executive called him the activist investor, which is there. We don't need one, right? Other people might have one. And he talked about multi-cloud and then specifically the capability of Azure customers now being able to provision an Oracle database completely in Oracle, no longer Oracle look and feel, but an Azure look and feel, which is a better user experience, no question, ease of use. What it says about Microsoft's database ambitions, totally different story for another conversation, but very interesting capability. That was 30 minutes, almost 90 minutes. The rest was all about healthcare. And obviously Oracle has acquired Cerner. It was all about how Larry Ellison thinks healthcare should be done. I know it's something very near and dear to his heart. He's always been interested in healthcare, big donations happening in his name. Sometimes not even in his name in the space. So it's interesting to see what's happening. And that spills over in the products, right? The Oracle database added all of a sudden JSON support, which of course could be a natural transition at some conversation with Andy Mendels and other people as there. We have plans anyway, but hey, it does not hurt healthcare to have JSON documents done there. Very interesting done, right? Oracle SQL-based, normally transactional and document were not come together. Of course, it has to be SQL-based. They came up with relational JSON, a better way because new to deal with documents there. All this runs, of course, in OCI, right? OCI pushed the Azure capabilities, also had some interesting partnerships with NVIDIA, right? All the people who are kind of like late with AI partner with NVIDIA. It's known to the enterprise, makes also sense for Oracle to partner with NVIDIA. And also interesting, the Alloy offering, the OEM offering, right? Oracle has this capability of cloud a customer earlier, and now with Oracle regions, as many regions as you want, why not give a region to an OEM, which could be a SaaS vendor or a cloud vendor, right? The other database, the interesting part, right? Oracle has become a 2-database company. HeatWave, rapidly moving along, is now available on Amazon, right? You heard it right, in AWS. Oracle offers a database in AWS and is getting a lakehouse, right? Lakehouses are the key enabler to store anything you want without knowing how you want to analyze that, and then run digital transformation, run AI on top of it, and so on, the key capability. Application side, the commerce option is very interesting, right? Oracle's for the first time building this Uber capability over the applications, making not necessary for customers to do repetitive work to integrate on the banking side, to integrate on the logistics side, on transportation side, and bring that all together, which will bring some interesting insights and most importantly, some time to market, go to live will be better. And then last but not least, on the HR side, putting my future of work hat on for a moment here, recruiting, talent acquisition, super competitive these days. We live in the era of the great resignation, I call it the great reassessment. People are trying to figure out what they do. Recruiting has to get more competitive. Oracle just add capabilities there. So my overall takeaway, very good progress by Oracle across the board, no question about that. Huge portfolio, right? From the down to the chip, all the way to the click, across all the ISO layers. Massive portfolio to get their heads around this. Oracle is now a 2 database vendor, has never been the part in history. There was always 1, now there's 2. Oracle CI has clearly become a contender, very competitive from regions. They're adding regions, Chicago, Serbia, and more. From a cost perspective, from data egress perspective, so many things very interesting for the enterprise there. And the applications are getting much more differentiated with this new offerings coming on top of it, showing a sign of maturity, and the team really building differentiators. Well, here you have it. That's my 5 takeaways and my POV of Oracle Cloud World 2022. Please share yours.
All right, folks, we're here at Constellation Connected Enterprise 2022. End of the first day. We're here at Sam's Chowder House getting ready for our lobster dinner.
Cosmic Feast, annual tradition.
That's right.
Big thing, popular.
It is popular because you get a giant lobster.
Right, lots of
like on a plate.
Cholesterol spiking food.
Oh my gosh, don't bring us down.
No, sorry.
And let me tell you, the 300 CXO types who are here are really going to enjoy that.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of lobsters that meet their end tonight.
Let's talk about takeaways from our first day.
Day 1.
Yeah.
Well, I only do. Right? Mobius?
Oh, Mobius, that's right. Oh my gosh. Okay. But I thought you were like dancing. I didn't know what that was. Yeah, no, that's true.
I was trying to make my best. What's the little guy who's always running in his movies like this?
Charlie Chaplin?
Actor? No. Tom Cruise?
Oh, yeah, when he runs like that. True. Okay. Minority Report. When he's like, yeah, no, I like it.
We're talking about Mobius. What's the name of the technology? The
Mobius
glass?
is their air glass and their air... I've totally forgotten what the rest of it is. Sorry,
came out of stealth anyway.
Just came out of stealth.
Exactly. Very interesting layering, right? Using our 3D capabilities on a display with your hands, multiple layers to touch stuff. So definitely something interesting for the future.
And it was more than that too, right? Because it was the fact that communication is built into it. So it's not just one thing. It's not just, hey, I can do this and my PowerPoint goes forward. Yep. It's I can have a conversation with someone else who's on a computer, who's not in the big I'm in a hollow, you can have that conversation. You can throw something at someone digitally, and it appears on their computer, rather than really having to go into a different space.
No, but that was a great analogy. I think it's a HoloLens-like experience without the visor.
Yeah, and the duct tape that everyone talked about having it.
Tim Cook would call it augmented reality. Satya Nadella would call it mixed reality. Leaders thought it was cool.
We just thought it was Mobius, and New Frontier kicking off the day, which I thought was a great way to kick off the day because it kind of set people thinking a little bit differently. I got the very distinct pleasure of getting to talk about the metaverse. Cue the glitter cannon. Great. But, got to talk about what happens with brands in virtual worlds. And I don't know, but my biggest takeaway of the day is that people are really wanting to redefine this concept of trust from that weird, fuzzy, amorphous world that we just kind of tossed out there, like, trust us, and really trying to figure out how trust connects to value, and then where data starts to stream in between that. Like, you can trust it because you can see it because the data's there. So, I mean, it was interesting kind of hearing people not use it like buzzword bingo. Yeah.
We had, speaking of data, we had a nice data to decisions panel, had a little bit of debate about centralized approaches, the old EDWs moving into the data lakes and the lake houses versus these new distributed approaches. So we're talking about fabrics and mesh. Great conversation. But I think the big takeaway, Sanjeev
Sahu,
Ingram Micro made the point, and it came up again in our panel, that you really got to start with the outcomes and the value you're trying to deliver, not the technologies.
Ahead of time.
Even when it's data and there's a lot of plumbing involved, start with the outcome and what you're trying to deliver.
That was an insightful interview because we talked about BMI, the digital BMI, right?
Digital fitness.
How fit are you digitally, right? What's your business model fitness? How quickly can you change? What's a very interesting part. And generally like what Ingram Micro has done, starting with the lake house, moving their transaction systems from 3 different sources into that, creating one new reality, giving business data to decisions insight, but then building the next generation applications on top of that, building their customer-facing and vendor-facing applications, which is really interesting, and I've been hoping to find someone to talk publicly about it, so finally we have someone.
We have someone.
Who's doing the right thing.
Well, culture came up too. Yep. I think culture came up in a couple different ways. We had a bit of a cultural debate with our keynote today, and Chris Lockhead, who, if there's
touched every third rail,
he was like, third rail, ding, third rail. Yeah, he was really going for it. But I think the message. I mean, you brought this up, right? That it was more about listening.
Yeah, I mean, his Mama always told me, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you could do twice as much listening. He actually went to a further extreme. You should be listening 80% of the time and talking 20% of the time, and that's a big cultural problem we have right now. People aren't listening to each other. They're waiting to to just react and not think about what they're saying and think about what other people are saying.
Or they can't get off the soapbox.
Yeah.
Well, and that came up again in another panel that Esteban hosted. I was talking about, like, okay, we talk a lot about innovation, but how do you make innovation real? You actually have to go and listen to your customer so that they can define the value and then wrap the innovation around that. So I think at the end of the day one, we talked about space. We glided on a lot of third rails that made people uncomfortable. We talked about data. We went back and forth. I mean, we really covered the ground because day one at CCE is all about pushing the envelope, seeing what's disruptive. Day two, tomorrow, it's like Experience Day. We're going to have a party, I think. Are we going to call it Customer Experience Day? Maybe not?
Maybe.
You want to call it CRM Day.
No. But I give you, this is going to be the year DX will pop. We'll see.
It's not.
It's going to see. It all comes
CX
back
might come out of beta. I don't know.
One last word in. We also talked about sustainability.
Yeah, we
talked
did.
about data centers
exactly.
big time. And
Yes.
you can't just think about giving yourself a free pass with your cloud providers.
I love that.
Green policy. You got to do some designing. You got to have some skin in the game and
I love that
get some
statement.
of your efficiency too.
So here we are, day one, CCE, bringing this to you live. Sam's Charter House. We got a great sunset happening. We'll come back to you tomorrow with a little wrap of day two.
Thanks for watching.
Bye. Hey folks, Doug Henschen here with our producer Hannah Hock and my fellow analyst Dion Hinchcliffe to share highlights from our 12th annual SuperNova Awards, which were bestowed last week at our Constellation Connected Enterprise event, held every year in late October at the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay, gorgeous place. I've asked Hannah to join us because she's part of the two-person marketing team at Constellation Research that really made CCE tick. Thanks also to Elle Froese, our marketing director, who had a big hand in these SuperNova Awards. So Hannah, can you tell us a little bit about the SuperNova, set the stage a bit for these awards?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. So every year we conduct a search for the SuperNova Awards and opened nominations to find leaders and teams that are innovating across enterprise technology. This year we reviewed more than 100 nominations, and with the help of 45 independent technology influencers who served as judges for the nominations, we identified 35 finalists across 9 different categories. The categories were AI and augmented humanity, data to decisions, digital safety, governance, and privacy, ESG and sustainability, future of work, employee experience, future of work, human capital management, marketing transformation, next-gen customer experience, and tech optimization. It's always challenging to pick a winner because all of the submissions are very impressive. They're all standouts, but at the culmination of our gala awards dinner, we named the winners. And I must say the decor for this year's gala was very impressive. It really matched the CCE theme of the Roaring 20s. So I'll let Dion go into a little bit of detail about the winners.
Thanks, Hannah. We don't have the time to name all the winners here, but to give you a taste of these innovative case studies, Doug and I will share details each on one of the winners. So I was chair of the judges in the Future of Work Employee Experience category. We had a lot of submissions this year. Some of them were really good. It was a tough competition. And there was 5 finalists, and Stace Webley and Confluence Health, using integrated AI capabilities, took the winner in this category. Confluence Health is now able to execute key supply chain management processes at least 90% faster than previously possible. That's a big gain, and we'd like to see numbers and quantification of these, and so that is an impressive gain and shows the power of AI in the hands of regular workers. The project was implemented in less than 90 days with AI-driven software automation, enabling Confluence Health to reduce the time from just hours to minutes and minutes to seconds, and all sorts of different processes, both in their CRM system as well as their contract management system. So it was great to see, and we always look forward to looking at these every year.
Yeah, great stuff. I was chair in 3 categories. We're going to highlight the new category we added this year, which was ESG and sustainability. This addresses environmental and social solutions. We had 3 nominations, good start for a new category. And we settled on 2 finalists. And the winner was Praveen Viswanath of Alpha Ori Technologies. Commercial ships is the market they're in, and each year those commercial ships emit as much greenhouse gases almost as all airlines around the globe. So Alpha Ori's smart ship software is built to help these companies improve their navigation, compensating for weather, It takes data points from the engine control systems, from the navigation systems. All of that data is collected. It's built on DataStack's global cloud-based AstraDB service. So it collects this data and can from all across these immense ships. We're talking about the largest container ships in the world here. So Alpha Ori has their software on more than 200 of these ships, and they can optimize the efficiency. They can choose better, more fuel-efficient courses. They can plan preventative maintenance. And at the time of the nomination, they had 200 ships, and they had helped avoid 300 metric tons of emissions, of greenhouse gas emissions, and saved these shippers $5 million. As of today, with last week's announcement, their site has a little counter of what's going on, how many ships they have, how much greenhouse gas emissions they're helping to avoid. And it's currently at about 136,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions avoided. And this has saved these shippers $22 million just on operating expenses. So pretty impressive.
And that's a quick look at two of the SuperNova winners. Gives you a nice flavor of what kind of projects that we're seeing. You'll be able to see the detailed stories and video conversations about these and the other winners soon. But you can read about them online today at the link that you can see on the screen here right now. And if you're in charge of an IT project or oversee one that's doing good work and is notable, we really encourage you to keep an eye out for our next SuperNova Award nomination process. It'll kick off in March 2023 and conclude in late June, and we hope to see you at the awards dinner.
Well, that's a wrap for Constellation TV episode 45. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back again in 2 weeks with co-hosts Liz Miller and Holger Mueller, bringing you the latest on technology and news. Be sure to follow us at ConstellationR and at CRTV_show. Thanks again for watching, and have a great week. AI and augmented humanity, data decisions.
Oh, you froze. You sure it's not Hannah froze and not?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Not Elle froze, it's Hannah froze.
7 minutes. Well, actually, if you cut out it's probably around 6 minutes. 6 to 5.
All the what? Go ahead and say it. All the crap.
All the blooper content.
Oh, okay.
And you got to make the most, Hannah, that can calling McDermott doormat there for a second.
Did I?
Oh, yeah.
Always have a blooper reel. We are a blooper reel.
Stop rolling.
Wait, say some more funny things before you start.
Say funny things. No, this is super unsafe. It's rusty. It's wobbly. I know. When someone was like, "Did you feel the earthquake?" And I was like,
"Would it be better if we get a little bit closer?"
We're getting close.
How close can we be?
Wow. Okay, we ready? I just had to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, but Doug's is on his back too, so then.
No, it's on front.
And the back.
Okay, 22.
This is what I thought about. This is what I thought about 68.
Yeah, this is a totally product placement.
Are you rolling?
Yep.
Customer?